Today we're looking at writing inequalities in interval notation, and we're also looking at the distributive property. Your essential question: how do I solve and graph inequalities and write the solution in interval notation? Learning intention: I'm learning to write inequalities in interval notation and to apply the distributive property to solve inequalities. So as we look at the 3 warm-up questions, please pause the video and do the warm-up questions now. Well, I hope you tried to do those on your own. If you're only checking your answers and you're trying, that means that you're working on understanding the concepts. So we have to distribute the 2 to both of our terms. So this is 2 times 3w minus 2 times 8. 2 times 3 is 6, so this is 6w minus 2 times 8 is 16. For the other one, it's the same idea, only this time your number that you're multiplying by is at the end. We still have to multiply to both of our terms. So this is 5a times 3 plus 3 times 1. 5 times 3 is 15. 15a plus 3 times 1 is 3. And we're done. So with everything else, we always like to take you to that next step. How do we actually solve when we've got to do distribution? So start off by distributing. 2 times 5x minus 2 times 1 equals negative 22. 2 times 5x is 10x minus 2 times 1 is 2 is equal to negative 22. Now we're ready to solve. So draw your line. I've taken x multiplied by 10 and then subtracted 2. The opposite, add 2 to both sides. 10x is equal to negative 22 plus 2. I'm at negative 22. I'm going up the number line 2, so that is negative 20. Last step, divide both sides by 10. And x is equal to negative 2. So hopefully, even if you didn't get everything 100% correct, you have a good start on understanding inequalities, and you got a good start on understanding distributing. And that brings us to our interval notation. Okay, so if you're looking at interval notation, it uses brackets and it uses parentheses. If you want to include the largest or smallest number, you are going to use the brackets. That means it includes those numbers. It is the same as a closed circle. Okay, so if you're using the brackets, it's a closed circle. If you do not want to include the beginning and ending numbers, you use the parentheses, depending on which side of the inequality you are on. It is the same as an open circle. So let's apply this newfound knowledge. Step 1, we're going to solve and then graph. As I'm looking at this, I need to divide both sides by 2. And x is greater than or equal to -5. -10 divided by 2 is -5. I can put the -5 anywhere I want. It is equal to, so this is a closed circle. The point goes to -5. That means -5 is the smallest number I can have. So my shading will go to the right. Okay, what does this mean in terms of interval notation? Okay, does it include -5? Yes, it does. So I use the brackets. It's a closed circle, bracket. -5. Where does it go? Does it stop? No, it goes to positive infinity. Can we include the largest number in infinity? Do you know the largest number in infinity? No. So that means that for your infinities, you have to use the parentheses. We don't know the largest number in the world. We don't know the smallest number in the world. So that is where the parentheses come in. Okay, the next one is a two-step equation. Step 1, add 3 to both sides. We now have 4x is less than or equal to 20. Next step is to divide by 4. X is less than or equal to 5. Here is 5. It's got a line underneath. That is a closed circle. My point goes to the x, which means x is smaller. Whichever way that point lands is which number is smaller. Okay, interval notation. It's coming from where? It's coming from negative infinity, and it's ending at 5. 5 is a closed circle, so I know that is going to be a bracket. Infinity, we don't know the smallest number in the world, so that's our parenthesis. Okay, for the next one, this is what we call a compound inequality. Are we going to study them? Oh, just a little bit. But do I want you to think about what's happening? Yes. Look at the inequality and see what you notice. What do you notice as you're looking at that inequality? Well, the first thing I notice is where the x is. The x lands between those two numbers. So our shading will be between the two numbers. If I put this at -2, this would be 3. Okay, what kind of circles do I have? It's not open here, so that would be an That would be an open circle because it's not equal here. It's equal here, which makes it a closed circle. Remember that the shading goes between those two numbers. Okay, what does it look like in interval notation? Well, we're starting at -2 and we're ending at 3. -2 is an open circle, that means a parenthesis. 3 is a closed circle, that means a bracket. Hopefully this is starting to make sense now. Okay, pause the video. Can you work the next one out on your own? What is your first step? Yeah, the first step is that distributing step. So, 14 is greater than 2 times 2x minus 2 times 3. All I did was distribute. So, next step is to do the math here. 14 is greater than 2 times 2x is 4x minus 2 times 3 is 6. Now we're ready to solve. I've taken x multiplied by 4, then subtracted 6. I have to undo the subtracting 6. The opposite of subtraction is addition. I've eliminated the 6 on that side of my inequality. 14 plus 6 is 20. 20 is greater than or equal to, is greater than 4x. It's not equal to. 20 is greater than 4x. Divide both sides by 4. 20 divided by 4 is 5. 5 is greater than x. So I'm going to put a 5 on here anywhere. It is not equal to, so that gives me that open circle. The pointy end goes to the smallest number. The pointy end goes to x. So that means I am going to highlight in that direction. Okay, now, what do we know? It's coming from where? It's coming from negative infinity, and it's stopping where? It is stopping at 5. Negative infinity, we do not know that smallest number in the world. Is this an open or closed circle? It's open, so that means a second parenthesis. And we're done. Okay, if you did not try that one on your own, pause the video and try the last one. If you do not try to do stuff on your own, how do you know when you've gotten it? Okay, step 1 is to distribute. $18 is greater than or equal to -2 times 3x plus -2 times 3. Next step. 18 is greater than or equal to -2 times 3 is -6x plus -2 times 3 is -6. Now we're ready to start solving. I've got to get this negative 6x by itself, so I will add 6 to both sides. $18 plus 6, 24, is greater than or equal to negative 6x. Remember, we have eliminated it here. Okay, for the last one, for the last step, we've got to get the x by itself. We've multiplied, the opposite is to divide. We're going to divide both sides by negative 6. But what do we have to remember? When we multiply or divide by a negative number, what does that do to our symbol? Well, it switches it around. So this becomes 24 divided by negative 6 is negative 4. Switch that sign around. Is less than or equal to x. So we start at negative 4. Is it an open or closed circle? It's equal to, so it is a closed circle. Which way does my arrow go? My arrow goes to the negative 4. That means my negative 4 is the smallest. So I highlight everything greater than negative 4. Now, we're going to write it in interval notation. If you notice, it has a starting spot, and which way does it go? It goes to positive infinity. It starts at negative 4. And it goes to positive infinity. Now I have to decide, do I use parentheses or brackets? Does it include negative 4? Is it a closed circle? Yes, that's your bracket. Infinity, we don't know the largest number, so we can't include it because we simply don't know it. And that is where the parenthesis comes from. I know I'm successful when I can write inequalities in interval notation and apply the distributive property to solve inequalities. So this is solving inequalities. And interval notation. Hopefully you understand now what interval notation is, and you're able to distinguish between what a bracket and a parenthesis tells you.